Mayor, we're good to go.
You first.
Thank you. Before calling the meeting to order, I want to announce that due to COVID-19, commissioner staff and the public are attending remotely via Zoom, by phone, or on site. All participants joining by phone should mute their phones when not speaking to avoid background noise. During the meeting, please make sure that you announce yourself by name and title every time you speak, so the public that is observing knows who is speaking. This is critical given the number of remote participants and is current guidance from the Kansas Attorney General. Due to COVID-19 requirements, in-person public comment has been suspended unless otherwise required by law. The public is allowed to participate by Zoom or submit comments by email prior to the meeting. Those comments are included in the record of the meeting. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Thank you. Roll call. Burrows.
Here.
Townsend.
Here.
Kiernan.
Here.
Ramirez.
Here.
Johnson.
Here.
Kane.
Here.
Markley.
Here.
Walters.
You got your thing on.
Bilbrook.
Here.
Bynum.
Here.
Albee.
Here. Thank you. Our invocation is being given by Commissioner Harold Johnson of Faith Deliverance Church of God in Christ.
Let us pray. Good and gracious God, we just thank you today for this beautiful day, for the time of summer that you've given us to see the beauty of your sunshine. We pray, Lord, your spirit tonight lead us and guide us as we are deliberating over matters of the city. Give us, God, to be mindful of those that we represent and to operate in full transparency as relates to the decisions that we make for the good of all persons who call Wyandotte County home. We pray this in the name of Christ our Lord. Amen.
Thank you. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Commissioner Johnson. Thank you all. Are there any revisions to tonight's agenda?
Yes, Mayor, there were two revisions. A blue sheet was issued for two items. The first one on the mayor's agenda was a new item under item number 2 for the proclamation of LGBTQ Pride Month. The second revision was under the public hearing agenda. It was an updated map on item number 1, approving the second expansion of the amendment to the Village East Star Bonds. Those were the changes.
Thank you. That takes us to the first item. I would indulge me in the proclamation. Whereas Wyandotte County's diversity and rich cultural history has always been its greatest asset, with peoples of varying backgrounds and circumstances living, working, and joining together to create a community committed to the betterment for all. And whereas all people should have the ability to live and work without fear of discrimination, prejudice, bias, hatred, or violence based upon their race, culture, religion, disability, sex, sexual orientation, or gender identity. And whereas the month of June is recognized as Pride Month in communities around the country in support of equality, and whereas the unified government does not discriminate based on race, color, national origin, or ancestry, religion or creed, sex, pregnancy, sexual orientation, gender identity, age, or disability, and the Unified Government Commission unanimously amended its anti-discrimination ordinance in 2018 as such. And whereas the Wyandotte County Advisory Commission on Human Relations and Disability Issues, which advocates for a diverse, welcoming, inclusive community, has requested and expressed its support for a community recognition. And whereas it should be the hope and mission of all to continue our community's long-held tradition of diversity and inclusion. Now, therefore, I proclaim June 2021 as Pride Month in Wyandotte County, Kansas City, Kansas. And thank you. Thank you to the Wyandotte County Advisory Commission on Human Relations and Disability Issues for that request. We now move to item number 1, resolution extending the state of local health emergency for the COVID-19 pandemic. I'll turn over to Mr. Conway, Assistant Counsel, to explain why this is necessary and beneficial to us. Mr. Conway.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is another extension for a 90-day extension of the local health order or health emergency. And there have been some interesting things with this. The state has its own emergency as well, and it was scheduled to expire May 28th. Under the current framework, the governor has to request for 30-day extensions, and she did that, but the LCC, the Legislative Coordinating Council, only extended it 15 days to June 15th, which just happened to coincide exactly with our expiration too. And then just today, I understand the governor expressed her desire that that the emergency is not over. She'd like to have it extended into mid-August for the state. And then she's going to have to do that with requests, 30-day requests. And so that's continuing to unfold. In the meantime, we have shifted our focus into probably more of a vaccination mode. And some of those numbers are a little bit low for some of the communities in Wyandotte. And so the local stance is to extend that another 90 days through September 15th. And Matt May, the Director of Emergency Management, is also available.
Mr. May, would you describe what the emergency order allows us to do?
Yes, sir. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, commissioners, and others in attendance. This emergency declaration does lots of small things that are relatively not applicable to what we're doing tonight. The most significant one it does do, though, is it makes us eligible to attempt to receive reimbursements from FEMA for expenses. That includes the rather significant expenses we are incurring to operate the vaccination centers. And I think that until we're sure that we're either done doing that or it's normalized, for lack of a better term, in other words, we've gotten it down to a level where it doesn't have as big a financial impact, having this declaration in place gives us the ability to go to the public assistance portion of the FEMA reimbursement program that we could utilize to recoup those losses. Currently, the president is now allowing, that's usually a reimbursement of 75%, but currently the president has allowed 100% reimbursement for that program. And so we could actually recoup all of our expenses for the applicable things that we're going to apply for. But we do have to have this declaration in place to make that happen. I've also been advised that the lack of or continuance of the state's proclamation for emergency won't make an impact there, that will still qualify because it's a nationally declared emergency, not a state emergency, that that status won't change it one way or the other, but ours would. So we would appreciate continuing this out for another 90 days.
Thank you. Any comments or questions from the commission? And I guess, Bridget, would you let me know?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we have Commissioner Ramirez.
Commissioner Ramirez?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to make sure we clarify this to the community. This extension is a financial point, focus point. It's for us to get reimbursed for expenses that we expend. This is not to put in any more mandates of any type or any kind. I just want to make that clear because I know once they hear that we may or may not be extending this another 90 days, they're going to get upset. And this is just for a financial focus point so that we can continue to spend money to increase our vaccination rate, but also recoup what we spend. So I just want to make sure that is clarified with the community. Thank you.
I'd entertain a motion.
Mark Lee, move to approve.
Bynum, second.
I think we have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Roll call. Burrows.
Aye.
Townsend.
Aye.
McKiernan.
Aye.
Ramirez.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Kane.
Aye.
Markley.
Aye.
Walters. Philbrook.
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye.
Vote is 10-0. That motion carries.
Thank you. That completes the mayor's agenda. We now go to the consent agenda. Does any member of the commission or the county administrator wish to set aside any item on the consent agenda? If an item is not set aside, all items on the consent agenda will be voted on by one vote.
McKiernan, move to approve all as submitted.
Ramirez, second.
Motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Roll call. Burrows.
No.
Townsend.
Aye.
McKiernan.
Aye.
Ramirez.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Kane.
Aye.
Markley.
Aye.
Walters.
Aye.
Philbrook.
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye.
Vote is 9-1. That motion carries.
Thank you. That takes us to the public hearing agenda. First is the second expansion of an amendment to the Village East Star Bond District Plan. Mr. Bach.
Thank you, Mayor. Doug Bach, County Administrator. Tonight we have a request, it's a request for a public hearing action to consider a requested amendment by the Homefield Development Company to expand the current Star Bond District, which their development is proposed to be built in. They have set forth a larger area that for our consideration. We'd like to provide a brief presentation, Mayor, and then we'll request to open it up for public hearing comments. We can put this up on screen now. Okay, so the current status of the Homefield development is one where there's a sale of land to the developer. They're approved for $130 million worth of financing. The first issuance is contemplated at $75 million. Second goes to the 55. We've allowed for some of the Menards revenue to go into this, but not all of the Menards revenue goes into this Star District. This Menards does set in the Star District. And then with that, they committed to spend $3.75 million in capital investment back into the community. To date, the developer has expended more than $20 million in land acquisition and demolition. There has been no Star Bond issue done at all in relation to the project to date, yet they have spent about $20 million. Next slide. As they've been moving forward, they feel like there is a great opportunity to bring forward a new tenant by the name of Perfect Game to be part of this development. They provide premier baseball for those at the college and high school ranks, or I should say college and high school ranks, yes, that are trying to get into a higher level of baseball. They're able to go there and showcase different talents as part of this. And with that, they would do a state-of-the-art facility, which would add about $30 million to the project. Next slide. As you can see on this map, and this is the request that is here for a public hearing and before you this evening. The area on the screen designates what is part of the Village East area, with the exception of the new green to the far right where it shows new. And then also, if you come down by the purple at the corner of 92nd and State Avenue, item number 23 is also new being added. Those properties were not in this area before, and they've been added. I will also note that this is where the blue sheet came in, that the area just above area number 23 in the first map that went on Monday showed this housing development to be part of the Star District. It is not. That is corrected on the map that is was submitted as part of the blue sheet, just to make sure and clarify that that housing development was not part of what is in this development. But again, the requested action is really just to put forth this green area where it shows new. That is the main property. That is basically property that sits south of Providence Health Center. And then that which includes the old Frontier Steakhouse area, which the developer has acquired. I'm going to ask that the developer, I believe we have Rob Heineman was not able to be with us this evening. However, Kurt Peterson is here, who represents them, just to speak a little bit about Perfect Game and what they bring to add to the to the development. Kirk, could you, I believe we promoted him to panelist, haven't we? All right, I'll let you go, Kirk.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. Thank you, Mr. Bach. Yes, we are thrilled as a development team that we were victorious in the competitive process that Perfect Game went through to find their Midwest regional hub, baseball hub. While it's expensive, we think it's worth it. Perfect Game has a track record of really being the top in the United States in terms of promoting player development. Very competitive, really all the way up to the pros. They have a lot of alum that are in the pros today, and they not only bring a lot of prestige, they bring a lot of activity. People will travel from all over the Midwest to come to these preeminent fields and these tournaments that are sought after. Even in our arrangement with them, our lease, they are guaranteeing at least 75,000 room nights after stabilization. So Doug knows that, and Rob's of course better than me at describing all of this, but I'll just say we can go into more detail if you like, but the bottom line is these fields will be of the highest technology. They'll be bringing the highest caliber players and their families from across the region, and just driving more and more tourism and activity to the restaurants and the hotels. And the home field building and the amenities and everything else that's being built as part of this master development in Village West and the whole area. So we are absolutely thrilled at this opportunity.
Thank you, Kurt. I will also note that part of the requesting changes, there are some plan changes. That is not part of the discussion tonight. That is something that's coming forth for you later in the month. We discussed everything with this related to this at the standing committee on Monday. But according to the timing of things had to go through, the geographic change of the district has to be for consideration first. And that is before you, for you to see what that is. Also, I will note, and we may have a slide for this if I jump out of order, Ally, but the state has also approved this geographic change. This is an activity, thank you for putting that timeline up. So this shows that on June 7th, we went to ED&F. On the 8th of this week, the state approved the expansion of the Star Bond District. Tonight, the commission considers this Star Bond District for approval. If this continues to advance from this point, then we will bring back the project plan change on June 24th. We went over all that with the standing committee on the Monday on June 7th. And if that's approved, then we're looking for the state approve the plan activity after we approve it. So it's kind of funny how that works out. On district approval, they have to approve it before we can. On the plan consideration, we have to approve it before they do. So this is the sequence of events. So tonight's activity is one of just considering the expansion of the Star District. And with that, Mayor, I would recommend that we open this up for a public hearing and allow members of our community to offer any comments they may have, unless they're a member of my team, if I've left anything out.
Thank you. I'll now open the public hearing. Clerk, have we received any notification from the public who wish to express their comments in favor of this item?
Mayor, we did not receive any.
Thank you. Is there anyone present who would like to speak in favor of this item?
Yes, we have an individual by the name of Mamie. She's been promoted.
Okay. Mamie, please state your name and city of residency for the record. You have 3 minutes to state your comments. Mamie, you are muted.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So I'm Amy Springs. I live in Kansas City, Kansas. I would like to add the fact that we have the monarchs, the African-American monarchs. What part of this stuff is playing with the African-American community? Like, are they involved in this stuff as well?
So Mr. LaSalle or Mr. Peterson, did you want to take that question?
Mayor, this is Todd LaSala, your outside counsel, and perhaps Kurt Peterson can speak to programming. This project is really pretty separate, distinct from the Monarchs. The fields that are offered here are really for youth baseball, coaching, training, tournaments. It's really a youth baseball facility. In the prior plan, it was 4 fields. The addition of this property grows the capacity of those fields from 4 fields to 12, and they think brings a greater presence, a lot of participation, groups traveling from far and wide to play. But Kurt, I don't know if you have anything to add about programming, but that's what these fields are really about.
And I've heard Mr. Heineman, this is Kurt Peterson with Polson LA on behalf of the developer. I have heard Rob talk about, I've not been in these conversations, but I've heard him talk about how there already have been discussions with the Brandmeyers, with the Monarchs of synergies and things like that. So I don't know any specifics, ma'am, but I know that the line of communication is open for the greater good here for baseball development for everybody in the community.
Thank you. Are there any other callers? Or
Yes, we have Sean Duncan, and I am going to promote him now.
thank you.
Okay, he should be there.
Mr. Duncan or Sean? Please state your name and city of residency. You have 3 minutes.
Sean Duncan, Kansas City, Kansas, 94th Street.
Go right ahead, sir.
It's 1918 94th Street. So, Mr. Mayor, my question is so according to Project Area 5, it looks like it's unplotted. So what I'm trying to understand is what the plan is for that area in relation to the project.
Mayor, this is Todd LaSala again. Project Area 5 to the furthest east, and Allie, it might help if we put that map back up. The largest area, which is about 55 acres, sir, is where the additional 8 fields for perfect game would go. That shows it very well. If you go to the far right, that area in green is about 54 acres. That's new land that's not in the district today that would come in, and they would put 8 new fields there. The prior plan already had 4 fields in it that are in this purple area that I think Allie's pointing to now. So again, you're growing from 4 to 12 fields. This other green area that's further down, there you go, where Allie's got her cursor right now on that corner at 94th, I think was formerly a restaurant. I think the developer plans to do a restaurant there again. He has also talked about some other potential uses, but right on that hard corner, it is likely to be a restaurant again.
So a follow-up question to that answer would be on section, if you look in the middle of the map on 14A, where it's looking at a luxury RV park. Just to the north of that is where actually the residence is located that we're at right now. And so my question would be, it's in white right now, like it's not part of the plot or part of the plan. My question would be, the map that I received looked like it was actually included in Project Area 5. So is it actually included in Project Area 5 or is it not? Because it looks like it's Pinnacle.
Yeah, that area is located within Project Area 5.
Okay.
It is.
So it's not represented on that map there, correct?
In the maps that Allie's got on the screen right now, it is shown, and it will be shown as in the district if the commission approves tonight. Frankly, it was in the district before, so nothing about that area is changing. But okay, to be clear, it is in the district and will be, and will continue to be. Yeah.
And then the other question would be, would that property then be under eminent domain, or is that how you guys are proceeding with this, or?
No, sir.
No.
This is Doug Bach, County Administrator, and that would not be part of eminent domain. That's as really a separate issue, but just because it's within a TIF district does not change our authority regarding eminent domain. And actually I believe this entire area that you're referencing, Area 5, was in the
Correct, sir.
original TIF district that we approved back in 2006, if I remember correctly. And then we grew it to add some of the other areas to it.
So you're stating that it's already included in the project?
It's always been within the TIF or within the project district in the area. As they noted in the other plan, there are no development plans over that area because they do not have control of that property. And the only way they could do development on it would be for them to be able to purchase that and negotiated purchases from the landowners.
Thank you. Carol, is there anybody else who's called in?
No other people from the public.
All right, thank you. I will now close the public hearing. Do any members of the commission have any questions or comments?
Commissioner Burrows has his hand up, Mayor.
Yes, Commissioner Burrows.
Thank you, Mayor. One thing we haven't discussed in the area, and I need to pull my map up, Area 1, I believe, helped me understand. I believe there's a cemetery there. Do we know what actions will be taken and what precautions will be utilized to preserve the integrity of the cemetery, not only today, but moving forward?
Thank you, Commissioner. Doug Bach, County Administrator. So the cemetery that was in this property has been one that originally, when we started in the Water Park District out in that area, they surveyed the cemetery to verify where we believe the boundaries of any, because if you go through that cemetery area, there are very few, if any, gravestones or markings of anybody that was buried in that site. So there was a professional hired that went through the site to mark it. They have various tools to pick up things in the ground, such as belt buckles or other types of things that could be censored that would come in to see where bodies may be on site. Surveyed that, marked it, later outer perimeter on that. And then that has been established that they stay off that site and don't enter into it. It can, while it is in the district, it's an area that, you know, is continued to be maintained as one of the 13, I believe, cemeteries that we take over as a county operation, and we mow and such like that, that are not operated by anyone active in the county, and it'll continue in that state. The developer asked some questions about boundaries. We made sure and shared all that previous information with them so they were aware of how we had done those previous surveys.
Thank you, Administrator Bach. I think it's not only the responsible thing to do, it's the very respectful thing to do, is be mindful of those whose bodies may still reside there. The next question I would have was, there was a commitment made early on when sporting came, and for my colleagues that have the northeast end, I believe some of those soccer fields were to be expanded into other areas of the community. Do we know where we are on those and what happened with those?
Thank you, Commissioner. So yes, the original project when we went, or I shouldn't say the project, the amendment that came from the development and relationship to the training complex did have also with that the concept of soccer fields that were contemplated to be out in Wyandotte County Park. That plan evolved and changed to the one where it is today. We turned those over to do multiple futsal fields throughout the community. They've moved forward. They've built all of those futsals. I believe all the commissioners that were on at that time were able to offer input as to key areas that they thought those should be built within different districts. And also that plan evolved, and they did the Wyandotte soccer fields that set out there in the area that they exist today, just north of State Avenue, that shows in this area is Area 4. That's kind of a purplish pink color over there on the right side.
And And thank you for that, Mr. Bach. I just wanted to ensure that there were questions in reference to additional baseball fields coming in and a commitment to invest in baseball fields throughout the community when there were initial commitments made to invest in soccer fields in some of the underserved areas of our community. And I know one of the individuals from the community mentioned what's in it for some of the minority communities. And I just want to ensure that it's not just one part of the community that's going to benefit from this development. And one more, if I may, and colleagues, thank you for the opportunity you've given me to ask these questions. But I think these are important for people to know. The Menards sales tax was utilized to assist in the pay down of the STAR bonds. It is the sales tax honeypot of the project. I guess my question would be, how much sooner would the project pay down if we were not to include the new baseball fields to utilize the Menards revenue towards that purchase and development, and just let the development itself, the rest of the retail come in and make up that difference? This comes from fast tracking projects. We fast tracked this initially to take down the property. We fast tracked it again to get this before us to have the development. And I think it's only fair that if we're going to continue to fast track, that we have all the information available so that we can make prudent decisions that won't come back on us as a body should something happen, heaven forbid the economy take another turn or go a different direction. So those are just my questions and comments, Mr. Bach.
Thank you, Commissioner. Doug Bach, County Administrator. So the requested expansion of the property does not entitle them to any change in the amount of bonds that will be issued in the project area. So there's really no change to that component. If the developer were to come back at a future date and ask for additional bonds to come into it, they would have to then provide justification as to why those bonds make sense in the project area and show how that would enable us to retire the bonds at a more rapid rate. However, this activity, as what we're looking at tonight, is strictly a real estate expansion of the property and enables them to do more on the site. So there is no financial evaluation that comes with it to change any of the equations in that regard. This just adds property into the equation.
Thank you. Are there any more additional questions or comments from the commission?
Commissioner Townsend has her hand up.
Thank you. Commissioner Townsend?
Thank you, Mayor. Commissioner Townsend, District 1. I'm saying it even though I'm really here. Again, this is a little bit different tonight. Thank you to Commissioner Burrows for bringing up the issue about expansion or fulfillment of a promise with regard to expansion of the soccer fields years ago. And in District 1, several years ago now, it might have been as long as 4 or 5, we got a beautiful futsal court done by the developers and with the assistance of the sporting group. It's located at Garland Park. So underutilized, but there to be used. My second comment, I wanted to respond to the concerns that Ms. Mamie had. Forgive me, I wasn't able to understand her last name, but Ms. Mamie, if you're listening, this is for you. When I voted in favor of this expansion in the project, I guess years ago now, my inquiries went to what I think Ms. Mamie was getting at. How accessible and usable will these recreation facilities be to any and everyone? And the response by the developers at that time was, I could come if I paid the fee and use all these facilities. So I'd like to have representatives from the developer speak about that. Do those same conditions apply? Because that did absolutely affect how I voted for the project. It was important that anyone in Wyandotte County or even out, we're talking about how many people may come to these fields from outside our area, have the opportunity to use these fields. So can one of the developers or representatives speak to that, please?
Hello, Commissioner Kurt Peterson with Pulse on behalf of the developer. I will say this, there's a development agreement in place for this project that I know Mr. LaSalle and Mr. Bach know intimately as well, because they took a long time to put together. This was the one, Commissioner, that was approved late in last year for this home field project. And there are a number of provisions in that go to the very issue that you and Commissioner Burrows are raising about community access, and Mr. LaSalle may even pull up his summary if we want to go into that kind of detail on some of those items. But it is definitely something that professional staff and an attorney team worked with the developer closely on in terms of accessibility. So that's the high level answer. I don't know tonight if you're asking to dig into the development agreement and kind of go through those in detail, but that is the high level answer. It's been on the forefront.
Mr. LaSalle, would you be in a position to be able to answer some of those access point that we know negotiated into that original development agreement?
I believe so. Bear with me for just a second.
And while Todd is looking that up, I'm going to also comment, and this came up during the standing committee meeting on Monday. There is communication also going on between the developer and our Wyco fields to the north, which have a large capital need to them. And I say that hadn't started yet, but there is comments or a reach out to see if there are things that can be done to assist them. I made it very clear, those fields are recreation. They always have been recreation for our community, and they're very important for us to maintain, but there could be a community element that they could work with to improve that use. And of course, they're not used all the time, but of course their fields are probably not in the condition that they could be used all the time in the way they're currently cared for. So we've organized a meeting with the general manager and a board member to sit down and talk about some potential things that may be done. I mean, that would certainly be something that would be up to that group, that they would be interested in it. But I think that's a future opportunity that could also provide some use for some improved fields for our youth, which would not be directly part of this, but from investment that could from this group to help in that area. Todd, were you able to identify some of those other items?
Yes, Doug, I have. So Section 8 of our developer agreement, Commissioner, speaks to a bunch of community commitments that the developer agreed to make. And those are the things that Kurt was alluding to. You have normal things that we always require of all developers about participating in civic, charitable, educational, and philanthropic endeavors within the community. They have to be an active dues paying member in good standing with your chamber and your EDC. They have to maintain their headquarters within Wyandotte County. They have to cause admission to the home field assets, which means the indoor building, the outdoor home field assets, and baseball specifically. Those assets all have to be discounted by no less than 20% for Wyandotte County residents, including Wyandotte County residents who attend camps at these facilities. The developer is also required to work with USD 202, USD 303, 204, and 500 to try and come to agreements about student participation and access to the facilities. And the developer would provide 500 tickets annually to the UG's Parks and Recs for free admission to the home field outdoor portions of the facility. There are also some provisions here about attracting out-of-town tournaments, but I think when it comes to the community participation provisions, Commissioner, that's what the document says today.
Thank you. I guess the key that I heard was Wyandotte County residents. So Ms. Mamie, if you're still listening, that seems to be the criteria, regardless of where you live or who you are, race, creed, or color. I'll also take this opportunity to invite fellow commissioners, staff, anyone else listening, for an opportunity to see your tax dollars at work. I will be throwing out the first pitch this Saturday at one of our newly renovated fields, Quindara Park. This was a direct benefit to the community from the CNIP fund. So if you want a good laugh, I'm going to give a good try, but you are welcome to come and help us inaugurate this park, and hopefully these young people are on a stepping stone and a path to playing at a home field or a major league or our Monarchs, which you know have their own field. So thank you. Thank you, Councilor. 9 o'clock, 9 a.m.
Commissioner Kane and Commissioner Ramirez's hands up.
Hey, Todd, did you mean School District 203?
Well, Commissioner, what I have here in the document is 202, 303, 204, and 500. Let me double check that. I may have that.
There is no 303. So I'm not going to vote on it if a 203
No,
is not involved.
you're right, Commissioner. I'm sorry.
I can't hear you.
I'm sorry, Commissioner. You're right. I'm looking at another place in the document. It is 203. That is a mistake. I'm sorry.
Thank you for saying I'm right.
You're more than welcome. You certainly are.
Commissioner Ramirez?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And please, Mr. Bach, please tell me if this is a question that can be saved for our next commission meeting on the 24th. But and I believe it was on the slide towards the beginning where part of the development agreement is the 3.75 million for community, the community development. I believe that's what it.
Community investment.
Community investment, thank you. Community capital investment. And I know we've had on threes, and I know some commissioners, we've shared, ideas of what that can be used for. But I would like to just share one idea of, we're talking about youth and everything. And so I hope that maybe working with the developer, we can put some of that capital investment into our parks and our parks and recreation. I'm always going to be, as we all know, I'm always going to advocate for that any way, shape, or form that I can. But again, that's up to that's their investment. They get to decide where it goes. But I would just like to put in their ear, Parks and Rec, Parks and Rec. Thank you.
All right, I will entertain a motion.
Move to approve, Ramirez.
Second, Walters.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Roll call. Burrows.
Aye.
Townsend.
Aye.
McKiernan.
Aye.
Ramirez.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Kane.
Aye.
Markley.
Aye.
Walters. Philbrook.
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye.
Vote is 10-0. That motion carries.
Thank you. That concludes our meeting for the evening. We are adjourned.